for upcoming saddlers?
Oh, do exactly what I just said.
Yes.
Maybe I would suggest that you know, if they want to start out here, get their gear and everything you need, and then I would go to a saddle maker in Australia, one of the more reputable ones.
Yes.
And see if they're willing to show you anything, and you know, pay them for their time. Go to one of them, and then if you're really keen and interested, then source one of those fellas in the States I just mentioned.
Yes.
Terry Henson or Troy West or Chuck Storms up in Canada. I mean, you know, they're if they had the time and were willing to show you stuff, that's what I'd be doing.
Yes, I suppose if you're from Australia and you're willing to travel over there, that number one is the biggest thing. You know, that'd impress them without them being anything but saying, oh, this young person, male or female, has gone over there. They're really keen on this. They've spent every last dollar on their plane fare, and they're over here willing to live in the back of the shed and do things. So, no, that's a very, 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 very important thing. What is some of the life lessons you've learned through all this, with your journey, some things that sort of stand out when you look at life? Because you and I, we're not old, we haven't finished life, we're still in the, as the way I look at it, I might be 57, but there's still so much I want to do. But to this point, you're talking to other people, you know, life lessons that have helped you get to where you are.
Probably, well, I guess don't be frightened of doing some hard work is a big thing, you know. And,
yes.
Like I said, back when I started, I'd be putting 15, 16 hour days in with my job and going home and doing some saddle making of an evening, you know, and every day off I had, I'd be, you know, punching leather.
Yes.
So don't be frightened of hard work, and I think that can get you a long way.
Yes.
You know, if you've got a good work ethic, I think that's a lot. Even starting out, if your work's not finessed, you know, quite to how you'd like it, if you're prepared to keep working and work hard, eventually you'll improve, and you know, things will come good. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things, is not to be frightened of hard work.
And there's no shortcuts.
Well, there isn't, no. Definitely not. No. And, you know, I'm a bit of a stickler for raw-hided trees and that sort of thing, and traditional, as you know, to a point, traditional methods and ways of, you know, putting things together. And you know, there are no shortcuts really.
No.
You can use some different hardware that makes life a bit easier. And,
yes.
You know, like the Blevins buckles, you've got them on your stirrups. Well, on your leathers, well, you know, you're not going to lace up every set of, you know, that's proper old-timey stuff. And
actually had those ones.
Yeah. Just,
and no one ever rode in my saddles.
No.
I'm short in the legs, and that was it. It was mine.
Yeah. So to reset them, you know, takes a little bit of messing around, whereas at Blevins you just shift it and it's done.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
So things like that, I guess, as far as traditional stuff, they're the only little things that are any different, really, is the hardware and stuff like that.
Well, it is, because you don't, like, and it's all good for people to make mass-produced products, because not everyone has the ability to go and have a custom saddle. So basically I suggest that when they're doing their, well, you suggest like when they're doing that, they haven't streamlined things with their products, or, you know, production saddles. And there's nothing really wrong with them for light riding and that, but when it comes down to it, your idea of why would a custom saddle, if someone's wanting to make an investment, with our clientele, there are people saying, well, we're willing to make an investment. Well, I suggested them, well, possibly, and maybe I'm right or wrong here, well, I would look at a custom saddle for you. And what are your thoughts, you know, with...
Well, most definitely. I mean,
yes.
I've ridden, and I guess that gives me a good understanding of what a good saddle is. I spent many hours in it, you know.
Yes.
And I think that's helped me a lot to, as far as my seats and the comfort of a saddle for a rider part of it, and also the horse's part too, because you know those bars are along the horse's back, and any little lump or bump in there is going to annoy him. So you've got to make sure that the underneath work is all done properly. It can be the prettiest saddle in the world, and if things underneath aren't done right, you're either going to make a rider sore or a horse sore, you know what I mean? So I think that's the most important part of it all, is everything underneath that you don't see, and how that's done.
Yeah, be like a car.
Exactly.
You can have a pretty car on the outside with pretty colours or whatever, but if it hasn't got a drivetrain, it hasn't got a strong chassis.
That's right.
And it's not functioning correctly, well, it really doesn't make any difference what the outside looks like.
That's right. Yeah.
Because I do try to stress to people that if they have got time and they have to wait, what's the waiting time now for a custom saddle?
Mine are out to about 13, 14 months now.
Yes.
I'm pretty slow as far as, I guess I'd be a bit slower than the average. I just like to take my time with them and get them to the best I can, and make this one better than the last one in some aspect, so that eventually I may be happy with the saddle 100% one day. I don't know. But, there's little things that I see that, there's plenty, of course, you learn every day, no matter how old you are or how much you've ever done.
I'm smiling, I agree 100%.
You learn something every day, and you learn another method of doing something. I found, especially over the last couple of years, which you learn a part of the process of doing things that you find an easier way, and you run across it by mistake, and you think, gee whiz, why wasn't I doing that before? But it's just something that if you keep plugging away at something, you end up finding a better way to achieve a better outcome.
Yes.
As you go, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Do you I know you're interested in roping saddles, and a wade's a roper or slipfoot, whatever you want to refer to them as. What attracted to you, apart from being a roping saddle, what attracted you to the wade? Because I've seen online your gear and that, and it's phenomenal. It's
Thank you. The wades, I think it's just the way things went, as far as the wades and the amount of them I do.
Yes.
Is because they've become really popular, because they're a good all-round saddle.
Yes.
I think definitely Ray Hunt, Buck Branham, and the Dorrance brothers, they created the popularity with them, because they were using them, and so on down the line, and eventually it got out of America to here.
Yes.
And I've ridden in them, and I've ridden one or two of the ones I've made over the years, and they're just a good all-round saddle. I mean, you can use them for most applications.
Yes.
Whereas a swell fork, I'd rather ride in a wade all day than riding a big swell fork all day out here in Australia, mustering or whatever.
Well, I smile because, and that's my interest in saddles. I started riding in a wade when I was in my 20. I'm 57 now. I haven't climbed out of one. I've changed styles, but of who's making them, and it's great to hear how other people perceive it too. Because in the early stages, you were seeing riding them on, they almost laughed at you.
Oh yeah.
You have to have, well, this is what I'm doing, and go. So I appreciate where you're coming from with that, because even the journeys, like with you, when you just wanted to keep tacking nails into things at night to make things work, they would be giving you a bit of a hard time, but you've got your vision, you've got where you want to go, and you're not slowing down for anybody or anything, because that's your desire, and,
Yeah.
and that's a must. I haven't met anyone that's gone somewhere with what they're interested in without desire, and they've got to have it in here. You've got to expect the highs, the lows, and you've got to come through it. And,
Yeah, exactly.
It just happens, you know. I remember you telling me yesterday, we were having a discussion, and you were talking about with your rodeo life, and you just you can continue with it just when you went down to do the jackpot.
Yeah, the Blackall rodeo.
Yeah. Let a few people know a bit about you.
That
side of your life.
I probably got thrown off more than I ever rode, I guess. I was just starting out, you know,
Yes.
and I was travelling with Dave Hode most of the time. He was right into him then, and he was on his way to winning a title then. And certainly, you know, Dave was...
because David, that's who you first started out with.
Start
in
work
the
with.
camp.
Yeah,
Because
that's
I remember
right.
you telling me just before, and I
Yeah.
didn't realise that.
Yeah.
So your relationship has sort of continued.
Yeah.
Yeah, as good mates. So.
Well, and the other thing is, I guess in the day I was 17, 16 or whatever I was, and I think I was 17 then when I got on the first saddle bronc horse, and Dave had a motor car and I didn't, so you know, that was the thing, you had to get to a rodeo. So Dave had the motor car, and you know, we worked on the same place, so we both took days off, went to a rodeo, come back to work. You know. Yeah, but as far as that Blackall incident, yeah, getting hung up's no fun, I can assure you. Know, you might know that, but
Regrettably.
It's certainly no fun and a bit scary. But you know, I would have liked to have probably kept going.
Yes.
I enjoyed doing that. I mean,
Yes.
I enjoyed, you know, when I was younger, I loved getting on pig rooting horses in the camp, and you know, I'd pick him. He's got a bit in him, I'll grab him, you know, and I'd love doing it, you know. It's just one of those things when you're young, I guess you enjoy doing it. And, you know, of course, like I said, I got thrown plenty. You know, I was never a great bronc rider or anything. I rode a few at the end of the day, and that was about it, you know.
But you're determined.
Yeah, exactly.
And get back on, and that's I think that's the difference with possibly, it's only suggestion, with a lot of youth of today. They're sort of sheltered so much that they're not able to realise, well, no one else is going to pick me up. I've got to pick myself up.
Exactly
and,
right.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard, and I think there's still opportunities for a lot of young people. But even in this industry here, I think it's just a marvellous industry here. This is just it really. What I also want to ask you too is, off the saddle a little bit, what are some of the best horses you've ridden? Not broncs, just horses that you might remember, or you will remember.
Probably, well, yeah, I'd never forget them fellas. I bought 3 horses off Dave, actually.
Yes.
And one of them was a big Appaloosa fella. He was like a roan Appaloosa. He wasn't like a Plains Indian Appaloosa, you know, with the really standout spots on
like
it.
the blanket sort of thing.
Over his rump there. He had a rat tail. So he's a rat tail Appaloosa. He was probably my favourite horse I've ever owned.
Yes.
And you know, he was a big horse. He was probably nearly 16 hands, I suppose, which was big for, you know, up there at that time. And he was pretty stout too, you know. And he had a big Roman nose on him.
Yes.
Just you know, I just took a liking to him. He's a gentleman, you know. He certainly and certainly he could run. He was really fast, you know. You know, I tied up quite a few bulls off him, and that's, you know, in those days, that's what I was looking for, was a fast horse that you could step off and grab a bull and pull him down, you know. And that's because of what I was doing, you know.
Yes.
That's what you had to do in those days. And you know, I certainly enjoyed that too, you know.
Yeah.
A few stumbles and falls doing that as well, I can assure you, but you know, ending up on the end of the bull's horns isn't much fun either. But you know, that's the way it was done back then, before the motorbikes and bull catchers and all that sort of stuff, you know.
Mechanical arms and others, and helicopters.
Oh yeah.
That's it's another world, and there's nothing wrong with that because we
No.
have to be more efficient. And
Yeah.
so it's all well and good to ride, 6 weeks to muster one paddock, but these days they're wanting it done in that day. Bring them back in, walk them 20 k's back, process them in 3 or 4 days, and then the next paddock.
I think there's a big downfall with that too, as far as cattlemanship, not so much horsemanship. I think that's come a long way in this country. It's certainly on the improve, the horsemanship part of things.
Yes.
But the cattlemanship side of things, I've left a couple of places over the way cattle were handled.
Okay.
Simply because I started out with an old cattleman and learnt from some of the really good cattlemen in North Queensland how to nurse them and how to get them through a year and out the other end of it.
That's tough country up there.
Definitely.
A lot of people mightn't realise that, but the season is one extreme to the other.
Exactly, yeah. And I spent all that time learning off those blokes how to keep cattle alive, and I said to one fellow actually the day I left, I said, I spent so many years, learning how to keep cattle alive. I don't need a moron like you telling me how to kill them. Yeah. And I walked out. It was just too fast, too quick, too much. They want 2,000 head through a yard in a day and drafted. You just, for the sake of the cattle, you can't do that. You know what I mean? So,
regrettably, I do. Yeah.
I mean, they're doing it, but I guess you look at some of those big places. How many motherless calves are around after they've had a muster? There's sometimes there's 50, 60, hundreds of them out of 2,000-3,000 cattle. That's not being
that off.
That's not being a cattle.
No,
no. That's one part of the industry I'm sour on. Actually, is that.
Well, in the cooler and just around the receiving yards and that, and the receiving paddocks and that, these little fellas will be dropped in the grass there, and the cows have that just been run through the yards.
Yeah.
Their eyeballs are alight, and they're just trotting back to where they think they were back at their own waters. Then they'll come back maybe in 3 or 4 days, and hopefully.
Yeah, it's still there. The dog hasn't got it.
But that's right. It's very harsh, isn't it? So I'm hearing you really loud and clear because I regrettably we've all had to deal with those things ourselves. So I'll just have a quick look at with your saddles. Do you go to trade shows or exhibitions or competitions with what your?
Well, I don't. I planned on doing that. Making up 3 or 4 saddles and a heap of tack and that sort of stuff, and heading to, the bigger horse shows in Australia. But I never quite got round to it. That was the intention, basically, is to make stuff and then take it and sell it, and, just to get my name going. But it all, when I started again, like I did stop making saddles for years in between those first 13 or 14, and then I just stopped altogether because I ended up running a couple of stock camps up there, and if you're going to commit yourself to something, you should be in it 100%, I think. And I'm not the sort of fella that can do 17 different jobs and do every one of those to the best of my ability. I'm focused on one thing and doing one thing well, and that's what I was, I had to decide then, what do I want to do? Do I want to make saddles or do I want to, while I'm young, keep running stock camps and manage places eventually, which I managed a couple at the end of the day up there in the Gulf, and I enjoyed doing that at that time. I was really keen on it, and just the lifestyle as well. I think it's what I like doing.
It fitted what you wanted to do at that period in time.
Exactly. Yeah. So there was a hiatus, I guess, in between where I wasn't making any, and then I got back into it probably 8-9 years ago, I
Yes.
guess I started and I focused on just doing that. And you know, there was a big thing there too after not picking up the tools for, would have been, 10 years or so. You know, and then to start again, you sort of, well, that's right, I made that mistake last time, didn't I? So it was another learning curve to get back to where I finished, and then to start from there again and just improve myself from then on.